All right, quadratic formula. So everything we've talked about so far has conditions. Factoring only works if I can find those magic numbers. Solving with square roots only works if I can isolate the x squared. Completing the square really only works best when that a value is 1 and your b is even, because if it's odd, then you're going to have some fractions. Quadratic formula works for everything. So put it in standard form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Identify your a, b, and c. Those are numbers. And then fill in quadratic formula and simplify. Unless told otherwise, we are going to round answers to the nearest hundredth. All right, so example 1. X squared minus 7 equals 4x. So we need to make the b term be in the middle on the left side again. So we're going to subtract it. And when you rewrite it, make sure you put your terms in order. So my squared term, then my x term, and my constant is last. Now we make a big deal about identifying a, b, and c. Okay, a is 1, b is negative 4. It's what's attached to the x term. And then my c is my constant, in this case negative 7. Now if I were to try to factor this, I'm not going to find a pair of numbers that multiplies to negative 7 and adds to negative 4. It doesn't exist. Completing the square would work for this one, but we'll do quadratic formula. Okay, I promise that formula is not as bad as it looks. Okay, so x equals, we have a big fraction, negative b, fill in my b value, negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, my b is negative 4 still, minus 4, it's always 4, times a times c. Well, my a value is 1, my c value is negative 7. All over 2 times a, 2 times 1. All right, so before you touch a calculator, before you start simplifying anything, put the numbers in the formula. Now from here, you can do a little simplifying by hand if you want. At the beginning, a negative 4 is just positive 4, plus or minus. Now you might put what's under the radical into the calculator. No radical symbol to start, just the number. So negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 7. Please use parentheses. You get 44 all over 2. That intermediate step, especially for a multiple choice question, is sometimes helpful because they may not give you a decimal equivalent. All right, but for now, we want decimal equivalents, so I'm going to type that into the calculator. So let me switch over to decimals here. Oops. There we go. Okay, so put your fraction in first. And I'm actually going to go back from the beginning and put the unsimplified version in, just to show you it works. Now, you're not going to find a plus minus key, so we're just going to put plus first. The square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 7, all over 2 times 1. All right, so there's one answer. Now, our direction said round to the nearest hundredth. So the 1 is in the hundredths place, so we look beyond that. That 6 says round up, so 5.32. Okay, and I'll switch it back to the other screen so you can write that in a minute. And then, remember, the original quadratic formula had plus or minus, so now we just take the addition sign out, we change it to subtraction, and there's my other answer. Again, round to the nearest hundredth, so negative 1.32. All right, let me switch back over to my screen. All right, there we go, 5.32 and negative 1.32. All right, example 2. Same thing, standard form first, so that 24 better move. So x squared minus 2x minus 24 equals 0. Label A, B, and C. Remember, A, B, and C are numbers, so A is 1, B is negative 2, C is negative 24. Okay, so negative B, negative 2, plus or minus the square root of B squared, negative 2 squared, minus 4 times A times C. A is 1, C is negative 24, all over 2 times A, 2 times 1. All right, and we drop that into the calculator. And again, you can do a little simplifying by hand first if you want. 2 plus or minus the square root of 100 over 2. Well, I know the square root of 100 is 10, so this is the same as saying 2 plus or minus 10 over 2. So 2 plus 10 divided by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And 2 minus 10 divided by 2, negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. There's your answers, negative 4 and 6. All right, one more problem here with the entire quadratic formula. So the function y equals negative 16t squared plus 10t plus 0.75 represents the height of a frog t seconds after it jumps off a rock. How many seconds is the frog in the air before it lands on the ground? And why is there only one possible answer here? All right, so it's already in standard form. So my A is negative 16, my B is 10, and my C is 0.75. All right, I definitely don't want to try to factor or complete the square with that. So quadratic formula it is. So t equals negative b, so negative 10 plus or minus the square root of b, 10 squared, minus 4 times my a times my c. A is negative 16, C is 0.75, all over 2 times my A, negative 16. All right, so we'll drop that into a calculator. Let me switch over to Desmos. Okay, so again, put the fraction first. Negative b, so negative 10, plus square root of b squared minus 4 times a, negative 16, times c, 0.75, all over 2 times a, negative 16. All right, so there's one answer, negative 0.067, and we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, so negative 0.07. Okay, and then we got to change our addition sign up here. Change that addition sign to subtraction, and we get 0.69. All right, so let's take that back to the problem. We're talking about a frog, and he jumped off the rock, and we want to know how long is he in the air for, and t is time. So when I think about that as t is time, negative 0.07 doesn't make sense. We can't go backwards in time. So the only possible option here is 0.9 seconds. Okay, so the frog was in the air. For for 0.69 seconds. Okay. We ignore our negative answer. Because there's no negative time. That's why we only have one answer here. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. It's not reasonable. All right, last little bit, the discriminant. So b squared minus 4ac, it's the part under the radical. And it's going to tell you about the type of solutions you're going to get. So we're simply going to calculate that first. Okay, so example 4. A is -1, B is 4, C is -4. So we're going to find b squared minus 4ac. No square root, no full formula, just that part. So 4 squared minus 4 times -1 times -4. 16 minus 16 is 0. Okay, my discriminant is 0, which means there's one real solution. So if you were asked, how many solutions are there? You just look at the b squared minus 4ac part. All right, example 5, a equals 1, b equals -4, c equals 5. Again, b squared minus 4 times a times c. So 16 minus 20 is -4. Well, let's see, if it's negative, there's no real solutions. Okay, and then the last, if your discriminant was positive, we would have 2 real solutions. All right, that's all we got for quadratic formula.